Welcome to Upstart Footy preview for the first weekend of the AFL Finals Series. Geez, we are very, very excited here. And like Joe Hasham at a poker event in the USA, the cards have fallen beautifully for the AFL because we have got 4 cracking games and we are going to dissect the daylights out of it right here from the Eagle Bar at La Trobe University. I'm Ben Waterworth, and we need to get him a little bit up and about, folks, because he's injured, his dogs didn't make the grand final, and of course his father went overseas during the week, so his sushi supply's a little down at the moment. It's a very good welcome to the man in the brown leather jacket, John Takamura.
G'day, Benny. Finals time, mate. You know, got to
dress up.
Got to dress
John
up.
Travolta style.
Got the up the standard a little bit, and as I said, 4 big finals in Victoria this weekend. Perfect for the football enthusiast out there.
Place to be. The perfect way to start the 2011 Finals Series is Geelong taking on Hawthorn at the MCG, 7:40 p.m. on Friday night. It's going to be wet, windy, hailing, apparently only 10 degrees Celsius, JTAC, but it's going to be hotter than Jennifer Hawkins on the Maya Catwalk. It is going to be fantastic out in the middle of the ground. We're doing something a little bit different here. JTAC and I have been allocated a side each to go through, and JTAC, why can the Hawks win this game?
Well, remember back to 2008. Hawthorn were the underdogs in the grand final and they spoilt Geelong's big party going for back-to-back. Also, Buddy Franklin, he's a big man and he's a player for the big game. He's kicked all those goals this year. He's won the Coleman medal. He basically helped win the grand final in 2008. Him combined with Cyril Rioli, we might as well call it the Buddy and Cyril show, can really cause Geelong some problems. Hawthorn also with their midfield have got a midfield as good as Geelong's, and Luke Hodge, who's been a bit down in the 2 times they've played earlier this year, if he fires up the skipper along with Sammy Mitchell, Brad Sewell, Chance Bateman, they should give themselves a really good chance of beating the Cats. And can the Cats play at the same standard than what they did on Friday night against Collingwood? That will be the thing to look out for.
And I think they will, JTAC. I'm with the Cats here. They won by 96 points against the best team in the competition last weekend. They've beaten Collingwood twice on the 2 occasions this season. One thing that I really liked about the Cats is that they've beaten the Hawks on both occasions this year. In fact, they've beaten the Hawks the last 6 times since that 2008 grand final. I think that'll give them a little bit of confidence as well. Last weekend, all the young players in Menzel, Christensen, Duncan had 26 possessions as well, all fired. Chapman was in great form. Mackie probably played his best game in the past 18 months. JTAC, I heard a really good quote during the week though. Forwards win you premierships, but defence saves you premierships. And there's no doubt that Geelong here have the better defence than the Hawks. Between Scarlett, Lonergan and Taylor, they'll be able to contain Franklin. I've got no doubt that Wajinski, Enright, Mackie, maybe even Josh Hunt will contain Cyril Rioli as well. And I think Cameron Ling will do another job on Luke Hodge. Luke Hodge only 12 and 15 possessions in the first 2 games. I think the Cats have got a very good shot here. Well, who would have thought Collingwood would have been hosting West Coast in the 2011 Finals Series at the MCG on Saturday afternoon, JTAC? Of course, Collingwood finished on top of the ladder last year and went on to win the flag, but the Eagles finished on the bottom. What a remarkable transformation by the Eagles this year. They have been fantastic, and they're coming in good form, JTAC. They've won 11 of their past 12 games.
Absolutely, they have, and I think the thing here for the West Coast Eagles is that they've got a tall forward line that can stretch Collingwood's defence. Nick Maxwell, he's sure, first game back in many weeks. Also with Kennedy, Darling and Quinton Lynch, chuck even Dean Cox or Natanui down there for a spell in the West Coast forward line. They can really stretch Collingwood, particularly down back. It makes Harry O'Brien and Nick Maxwell accountable for opponents. Also, their midfield has been very understated this year. Luke Shuey, Matt Priddis, also Daniel Kerr, if he plays, will be very important to them. And I think their big advantage is in the ruck. Cox and Natanui, the dream duo, I like to call them, against Darren Jolly, who has been struggling for form a little bit since he's come back. And also down back, Darren Glass. He's back to his form of a couple of years ago. Wouldn't surprise me if he's All-Australian fullback this year.
I think last weekend's loss to Geelong by 96 points was a massive aberration. I think Collingwood have been playing for the finals for the past month. They've been wanting to do that. And I just get the feeling that's how they played last weekend. They went in a little bit half-hearted, or haphazard, I should say. And I think they'll bounce back. Their intensity will be fantastic on Saturday afternoon. You mentioned about Cox and Natanui, JTAC. When these 2 teams last played earlier on in the season, Cox and Natanui dominated in the hit-outs, but Collingwood broke even in the clearances. So those midfields of Swan, Pendlebury and Luke Ball, and Sherrod Wellingham as well, will be able to read those taps And I get the feeling that Travis Cloke, he's been a lock for the centre half forward position in the All-Australian team. Get the feeling Travis Cloke is due for a big day out, and Darren Glass, I think Collingwood would bounce back very, very easily on the weekend. Two quintessential finals teams in St Kilda and Sydney go head-to-head Saturday night at Etihad Stadium. I think this game, JTAC's probably been a little less profile compared to the other three games, just I think purely because this game's at Etihad Stadium. But the contest between these two teams will be fantastic, but it's been a fantastic turnaround by the Saints in 2011.
Sure has. One of their first 8 games they won, but they've won 11 of their last 14. So St Kilda have been in really good form. They showed last week against Carlton in a game that they had to win to earn a home final. That, you know, they're up to finals standard. They've beaten a team that has been around the mark all season. Nick Riewoldt, I think, is going to have a big game, particularly as it's a final. I think he's going to step up as the skipper. St Kilda, they'll be able to lock down Sydney, cut down their forward options, and if they can stop Adam Goods, I'd say Sam Fisher would probably get the role there. I think Sydney are very much going to struggle to kick a winning score.
Sydney lost to Richmond in round 20 at the MCG, JTAC, and I'm a firm believer in the loss you need to have, and that was the loss Sydney needed to have. Ever since then, they've won their past 3 games against St Kilda, then against Geelong, down in Geelong, and of course very impressive against the Lions last weekend. As you said, Adam Goods is in unbelievable form at the moment. He's a very, very much a smoky for the Brownlow medal. And Shane Mumford, perhaps the most in-form ruckman in the competition at the moment. But I think the X factor for Sydney that might have gone a little bit under the radar is their young players, particularly Gary Rowan. His pace is electrifying, and I think he could really be a line breaker. The Swans, I know, won't be happy that they're playing at Etihad Stadium, but don't count them out. They are a very good chance to win on Saturday night. Big boy versus big boy, Carlton versus Essendon, perhaps the most look forward to final out of all 4 games this weekend, JTAC. Of course, the last time these two teams met in a final was in the 2000 was the last time they met in a prelim final, but everyone remembers the 1999 preliminary final. Of course, Dean Wallace was tackled by Fraser Brown and cost his team the game. You've got the Blues. Surely they can't drop this one, JTAC.
Well, I think if Brett Ratton does drop this one, he's in a bit of trouble. They've said
absolutely
on the record that a finals win is required. They've been around the top 4 all year. They'll be disappointed that they haven't got that top 4 position, and now they're playing their big rivals, Essendon. A few weeks ago, they gave them a nice 70-odd pointer drubbing, but Essendon will be up for this one. But I think Carlton with their midfield, Judd, Cruiser, if he's fit, Gibbs, I think they'll have a bit too much firepower for Essendon. And then up forward, I think the likes of O'Halpin and also coming back into the side, Jared Waite, if he comes back in, I think they might have a bit too much firepower for an Essendon forward backline that's had a lot of injuries. Tate Pearce, Cale Hooker, Dustin Fletcher. Will be interesting to see whether they're fit. And Eddie Betts and Andrew Walker turned it on last time round, and I expect them to play a big game as well.
As we said, JTAC, throughout the whole year, the later the bye comes for a team, the more it benefits a team. And of course, Essendon had the bye last weekend, and I think it was perfect timing for the Bombers, who, as you said, had a few injuries. They will be so fresh and fit and firing to go for this weekend. I really like Travis Collier. Came on against Port Adelaide in round 23, literally turned the game as the substitute. I reckon he's got to do that again as well. Essendon, as we all know, makes Carlton very, very nervous. They've got the wood. They know Carlton will probably be the most nervous team out of any side this weekend as well. And I like the young defenders. I know they're probably a little bit susceptible to the small Carlton forwards, but I think guys like Hardingham and Heppel can really lift for this occasion. And we've got the X factor in this game is Paddy Ryder. In the ruck, up forward, down back, he could really win this game for the Bombers, but it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere nonetheless on Sunday afternoon. All right, JTAC, let's put all bias aside and what we've just said, let's put that aside as well. Who's going to win, Geelong or Hawthorn?
Hawthorn will turn the tables and win by 15 points.
I think Geelong for mine. I think they're in good form at the moment, and that 96-point win will do them well. What about Collingwood and the West Coast Eagles?
I still think Collingwood might just have a little bit too much for them.
Collingwood will bounce back, definitely. St Kilda and Sydney?
St Kilda simply because it's at Etihad Stadium.
St Kilda for mine as well, and the big one, Carlton versus Essendon.
Oh, Carlton have to win this game.
Have to win, simply to win this one for Brett Ratton. That's all we have time for on Upstart Footy Preview for the finals weekend. Get excited, get around it. It's going to be fantastic. Thanks for tuning in on bigfooty.com. We do appreciate your viewership, and we'll see you next time on Upstart Footy Preview, of course, the magazine for emerging journalists.